It's on. Right. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, great masterclass last week on how to get PCs and how to attack the 22s or the 23. I am not in bed. Some people ask.
Nor am I.
So basically, yeah, the conversation is going to be about that masterclass. We had an interesting skills session, Michael, this week, and there's a next masterclass that's going to be extremely demanded, I think. So, yeah, Michael, Anthony, there you are.
Yeah, one of the interesting things was forcing penalty corners, you know, and we were talking about skills, and sort of out of that came, you really have to have skills to force penalty corners, or a bit of luck, and luck helps. Or you need a bit of video refereeing, which is pretty tragic, and that also happens. I mean, I had a look at the Germany-Belgium men's game, and the refereeing was pretty average. Three really critical decisions against Germany killed them. So you're hyped up on that stuff. Yeah, so yeah. Go on, Anthony, go on.
Yeah, that attacking play, you've got to link everything together. But, you know, where you are in the circle has an influence on corners or not. Who's on the ball has an influence on it. Decision-making on the ball has an influence on it. There's a bunch of factors in it. But we showed some video, you know, Glenn Turner, who's a really good striker, or was in his day, made a deliberate choice to get a corner, given the options or the other options he had in the circle. And that's the key to it. It's good decisions in the circle from the players on the ball at the time. Because there are many situations where people try some really dumb shit and it's just never going to work. Or it's a miracle if it does, but you can't win games on miracles. Or you can't do it regularly, let's put it that way. So the key is really about decisions on what that looks like with the players and teaching them how to make a good decision. You know, what is their awareness like? What is their head up looking like? Do they have the skill to carry the ball and look up? There's an interesting question for players, because that's the sort of thing they need to be able to do. It's one of the skills they can practice, looking up, carrying the ball. Because if you're looking up, you can see what's going on and therefore make a better decision.
Some of the really good examples were the Belgium-Germany game. Some of the goals, all the goals came from the middle, exactly as we've said. All the play came through the middle, and carrying the ball and just doing a couple of deception passes, you know, resulted in some easy goals. Tom Boone dribbled the ball, you know, beat 2 or 3 players along the baseline with some brilliant skill. And as the commentator said, well, brilliant skill. Well, he did. Well, he set up a goal too, because as he's under pressure with trying to beat 2 or 3 players, he's also seen the player that's free. And skillful players have that ability to pass a ball anytime in the elimination area, anytime at the start of the elimination or at the end of the elimination. And good players have that because they've got that ability to keep the ball on the stick. So it's
the key to it is having the ball on the stick. You've got to know where the ball is and be able to execute that pass. You can't have to go back and find the ball and expect to pass it quickly, because it just doesn't happen.
No. And that's the difference between the old days and the new days. The old days we played on grass, you tapped the ball, had to force it along. On the turf, it's got to be on the end of the stick. It's got to be silky smooth. And you've got to have fast hands to be able to shift the direction and position of the ball very, very quickly. So out of the masterclass came that, your microphone's off, Charles.
It was. It's actually a good point. Is compared to grass, have we seen? So we've heard Bram Lomans that was on the pitch mostly because of his drag or penalty corner skills. Are we calling these drag flick skills, or are we? When have we seen an evolution on the drag flick?
The drag flick first in world hockey in a big event was in 1994 World Cup that was in Sydney, when there were 2 Dutchmen that were executing that skill. It was Taco van der Hornet. And
don't forget Sahal Abbas, who invented it.
Yeah, and of course Boverlander, but that was the first major event where anything was happening, and Sahal Abbas was the other one, but no one else could do it at the time.
So who
And it
invented
had been
that? Who created that movie?
Sahalabas invented it.
Abbas did it, and then the Dutchies really perfected it first, and then Sahel kind of caught up with them.
Yeah.
But Taco Van and Hornet was pretty good, and Bovelander was more of a hitter than a flicker. He was just a power merchant, and he could just rip the ball basically. And it wasn't technically super great. Taco was a much technically better flicker. But that was 1994. It's a long time ago. At the World Cup in Sydney. So when you think that was the men at the time, and the women haven't really got a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So that's a bit disappointing in world hockey.
But that's also the advantage of the sticks changing as well. Because Sahalabas invented the stick that had the huge bend in it. That's why they eventually, the sticks just kept getting huge bends. And that's why the FIH then made a rule that you could only have a 25.4 centimetre curve.
Millimetre.
Millimetres.
Not centimetres.
Yeah.
It would have been 25 centimetres previously, the banana sticks.
It would have been. They were banana sticks. And then after that, the players got really clever. So at the end of the stick, they used to shave the top handle and make that flat. So the curve would be flatter. But the curve would still be the same, but the stick would low flat.
Yeah, and that's why Adidas have flat handles.
Yep. So,
So from those guys, so Bovelander and Taco, I don't know his last name.
Van der Hornet.
Yes, simple to remember. How did it go on? So Bram Lohman, what did he bring? Is just a success rate, or did he bring something different to the technique?
Now he was a bit more robust with his technique, but he was the world's crappiest hockey player that could flick, and he also brought in or forced the FH to change the rules that you couldn't change your stick on a corner, and you couldn't bring someone substitute on a corner. So he was the reason that changed, because he was just absolute garbage as a player.
Okay, that video is going to be on YouTube, Anthony. And
that's
and
okay.
He's a nice guy. He's a super nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
We meet him once in a while. He's a super nice guy.
But he was garbage as a hockey player.
Oh,
so he would have played a lot of games.
Anthony's comments.
Most of the drag flickers in the world aren't great hockey players. They're not great hockey players. They're very average hockey players, but they can score on corners.
Yeah. Hendricks is one of the better hockey players as a flicker.
Yeah.
He's not great either, but don't get me wrong. There are other better hockey players on the field for the Belgians by quite a way, but he can hold his own in a test match team as a field player. But quite a few of them, when you look around, they're really quite poor.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Dutch guy, Mick van der Berg.
Is he not a good player? Because
he has improved massively, but when he first started, he probably was an all right player for the second or third league in the Netherlands, but he had a corner that was world class. Correct. And he now holds his own in the top league. Internationally, you're not carrying him anymore, but he's also not a world beater in terms of play.
Yeah, when he played in London, he was a good flicker. He got 11 goals, 10 goals or something in London at the Olympics.
Yep.
But his play let the team down a little bit because it just wasn't good enough for that level, but he did improve over time. Still wasn't great, but his flicking was good. But then his flicking went off for some reason. I don't know why. He couldn't score any goals in the later part of his international career. It was a real struggle for him. So I'm not sure what happened there. But the Dutch have always been good on corners, so they're going to pick up some corner skill and work with it. When you think back through the years, the Dutch have always had corner exponents that have been exceptional.
So in your opinion, who do you think's the best corner specialist from the last 10, 15 years who can actually play on the pitch and is also a very good player? You thinking
Hendricks is probably... Yeah, he was a reasonable flicker. His success rate was reasonable, but there are other better flickers than him, and he was a good hockey player on the field. So certainly as a hockey player, he was the best. But if you had, Hendricks or Sahalabas in your team, he wouldn't be flicking.
Yeah.
And so, he was a good option as a flicker, but not as good as a top-class flicker.
So we're talking about who here? Sylvain Nas, is that?
Ashley Jackson.
Oh.
Ashley Jackson was good. I mean, they don't tend to have long careers as a flicker. You might get 4 or 5 years, but they never seem to last. I don't know why, but they don't. I mean, in Australia, when they played the World Cup against Holland, in Holland, Chris Sorrello, was it Chris Sorrello?
Yeah.
Flick?
Yeah.
Oh, he had an amazing tournament. He's just, everything he flicked went in. But since then, he's been okay, but not as really good as he was then. Hendricks didn't score a goal in the 2 matches against Germany versus Belgium in the Pro League at all. And they had something like 12, 13 corners. Didn't score a goal.
Probably depends a lot on the amount of pressure being put on the knee in the action, and over time, you just can't do it.
Who knows? Who knows? I don't know.
Can we come back to Chris Yellow? Because I thought Chris came in when Australia had a game in India against GB, or England or GB, and they had like 12 short corners and didn't score a single one. And Rick Charlesworth said, "Oh, the short corners should not be part of the game." Blah blah blah. Basically criticized it. And then they brought in Chris, but Chris was not a young player when he got brought in.
No, and Dorner was the one flicking for Australia before that. And at his peak, Dorner was a really good flicker. He brought it on dangerous. He flicked it so hard.
Yeah.
Another one that was not a great hockey player, but a really good flicker. And his flicking went off.
Yeah, he could flick a ball off a very short distance too. He didn't require a huge drag.
And then Chris played in the Netherlands, because I seem to recall that he played in either Rotterdam or Bloemendaal, or both.
Yeah, that's right. He did play in the Netherlands. He didn't have a long international career, but he was quite successful with his flicking for a period of time there. And then you look now.
And then he went back to Australia and just retired internationally, but he was a little bit older than already.
That's right. And the Australian team at the Olympics didn't have any, weren't world-class flickers. What they had, Hayward was okay, not great, Dawson, I think, flicked a couple. He's not great. They haven't got a world-class flicker at the moment. That's a problem for Australia. And I'm not sure, in Govers, I don't know. I'm not sure. How do you measure a world-class flicker?
A rare breed.
He seems to have a good technique, but not actually much power in the flick itself.
Oh, he can. He's got a bit of power. I mean, I think if you're going to judge them, if you can get anything over 30% of your flicks away, then you're a good flicker. And I think Australia's percentage at the Olympics was 10, 12% or something. Where Hendricks was 44%. I mean, I think
the key for me though is if you're going to call yourself a goal scorer, you've got to score goals that matter. Right?
Not against the
regularly
teams, but the top ones.
It's easy to play Canada, win 10-0 and score 6 goals. Righto, that's cool. Great. It adds to your numbers and all that stuff. It's all good. But in a 1-1 game, you got to score the second goal. Olympic final, that didn't happen. So for me, to consider yourself a world-class goal scorer, which is what the flickers are, then it's key moment they got to deliver in.
It's a bit like the NBA in America. You do the last 3-pointer, you got 2 seconds to go, you put it in. Clutch shots. That's where you earn the big bucks. If you miss, you become Ben Simmons, whatever his name is.
Yeah, he can't, basically.
He's struggling in that area. No matter how good he is, he's the best defence. I mean, you got to be, if you're in that league, you got to be all round. You got to have everything.
Yeah.
You just can't be part. You've got to have everything. How do you go with angles, Oliver?
I've downloaded it. I just need to have a play around with it. I haven't really had time at the moment.
It's useful to have a look at the tutorials. There's a heap of them on the internet, but it's really worthwhile.
Yeah, I had a quick play around and it looked pretty complicated, so I decided I needed to set a few hours.
Just remember, if you're using a Mac and you've got a trackpad, you can pinch in as well, so you can increase the, you can zoom in on things. If you have more than one camera, you can have them tracking across as well. And then you take your timeline and then you just dump them in the composer, and that can export directly to Keynote.
Okay.
So it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so Rex said, give him a call whenever, Charles.
It's just been a mad week, as you've seen. Haven't been talking much. Didn't follow your fantastic messenger conversation that you had.
That's right, but you need to, because he's organising Alison. He speaks to her every second or third day.
So, Alison, good subject. I'll let you get on Alison.
So you need to get hold of Rex. He knows about Alison, so get hold of him, and he was going to contact Alison, so see how far he's got.
Yeah. So if Alison talking, she's the coach of the Olympic team that won the gold medal. So, what value is she going to add to a community level coach, we'll call it? What questions can people ask her where she's going to add some value? And I'm sure there are some that people can ask, there's no doubting that. How did her team win compared to other teams? Why did her team win? What were the Dutch team doing differently to the Argentinian team, for example, who were the next best team?
So she had, I think there's quite a few interesting subjects. I mean, she had to deal with failure. I mean, Rio was just unbelievable. The best drag flicker, Marcia Pommer. I mean, they just crashed in front of GB. Well, she's an unbelievable player, an unbelievable drag flicker, and then had a day off on.
They were psyched out by the GB keeper because they thought the GB keeper was unbeatable, and that was mentally something they couldn't get past.
Yeah, the whole Dutch team were off their game on that day. But even in saying that, if you look at the way the game went and ignore the score, the Dutch were probably the better side.
Oh, they dominated.
Well, you're only a better side if you score more.
In the end, the results matter in that game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the way it works, unfortunately. Yeah.
We've all played in games where we have had all the play, 90% of the play, and lost by 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And you wonder what's going on. You just can't work it out.
They've run down 5 times and hit the ball in. We've spent the whole of the game in the 25 at the other end.
Yeah, so she had to deal with that. She had to deal with a whole lot of new players. And there's quite a lot of questions around that. How do you get new players in the team? Because it's the big thing with hockey. It's a team sport, and it's just individual skills that you just add on top of each other. There's really a team aspect, and I think there's going to be a lot of things we can learn from her on that level. How does she build that team strength?
And this is also where the Pro League has actually helped the Netherlands, because it's given them more opportunity to blood more players in a more serious environment. So from that respect, it's actually done quite well for the Netherlands. But there's also its downsides with financial commitments.
Well, Germany, the same. Germany, there's only 3 players from the previous team. And they actually didn't play. The score 5-1 didn't reflect the game at all. The Germans played quite well in a lot of plays. They couldn't hit the ball in the net, bless themselves. But it could be
that feeling.
We've all been there.
Do we have a date for that masterclass, or we still need to work that out?
You need to have a chat with Rex.
You've got to talk to Rex, find out when Alison's available.
Okay. All right, then. We'll talk to Rex then.
Yeah. Yeah, so Alison will be good to ask a lot of questions, so lots of people talking with Alison online will be a really good thing to see what questions come out and how she answers them. Quite interesting. I see Shane McLeod a lot online and various things that he's doing. He's over in New Zealand right now, having a holiday with his family. And he's having some downtime for 12 months, but I can't blame him for that. He probably needs it.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty intense.
Anyway.
Okay, so we've just got a few minutes left for this conversation, and there's one subject that we didn't really address yet. Is we talked about skills. So we said that related to the last masterclass about getting short corners, skills were extremely important. But Michael and Oliver, I think you had a session this week looking at skills.
Yeah, it was just a sample session of the science behind advanced skills. And there's some real, and you can learn science behind it. It's not, you're not born with magic skills. You can learn skills. It's as simple as that. You're not born a heart surgeon, you're not born a concert pianist. You can learn those skills. Whether you get to the super levels, different story. But I did come against somebody, I'll tell you, it was interesting. I did see a skill the other day that blew me away. I haven't seen it never seen it. Let me just share my screen and you will have a look at this. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Watch this guy. It's called an air dribble.
Yeah, I've got plenty of that on the Tribaal videos. I'm placing the brand. Herman Lescano was a specialist of that. So what we used to do is we used to go to schools and get them to play hockey. And the idea was I used to introduce the sport, how it was played, the stick and everything. And I said, by the end of the session, you will be able to do this. And Herman used to take the ball above his head, tuck, 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 tuck. It was part of the marketing, also part of the marketing. So we had a range of sticks. It was anti-gravity sticks.
Anti-gravity, yeah.
And that's Herman was doing a lot going around. So people watch. I'll see if I can find the links again. Watch on Instagram and then on YouTube. There's some of them on the Tribaal videos. We've got some of them. It's called anti-gravity.
It reminded me of the movie The Girls from St. Trinian's. You remember that one? The hockey player girls who put the ball on the stick with a nail and just ran down the field.
Yeah, good players can do those things.
Yeah, but they're fun to watch. But
it's the nature of it.
In terms of skills, advanced skills, there is a science behind it, an absolute science behind it. And if you can learn it and incorporate it, because you've got to develop your core skills by the time they're 17 or 18. Otherwise, it's pretty much over by that stage. You can still learn, but you don't learn the really important skills, the fine, fast hands. Yeah.
And you just got to spend a lot of time on a ball. That's a really important component to it. You've got to spend a lot of time on the ball. So the structured skill development, like Mike was talking about, then unstructured play with the ball so you get comfortable on the ball. It's a really important thing to be comfortable on the ball in many circumstances and many ball positions. So, and the only way you get that is by spending time on the ball.
Yeah, and then you learn how to peak with your skills, and what happens when you're coming off the ball with your skills. Sometimes the ball is not like a magic piece of string; you can just do anything with it. And other days it feels like a watermelon; you won't even move, and you kick it, and all sorts of stuff. But you can peak. You can learn those peaks and how you do that in training, and how you do it for tournaments and stuff like that as well. So they're all interesting topics.
Fantastic takeaway. It's a science. It's not an innate thing. So that gives everybody's hope. Is there
learnable
age recommendation?
Is there what? Sorry.
Age recommendation.
Yeah, you've got to start. I mean, I didn't start
early.
Early as you can, basically. Yeah, early as you can.
When the kids can manage the stick well enough, so probably 9, 10 or 11 is around about when they should be starting to work on these things from a structured point of view, alongside some unstructured stuff. You got to be able to manage the stick. And for a start, the kids can't do it. It's too hard. So, but you got to, even then, the whole time, they've got to be on the ball, mucking about with it. It's just so important.
Yeah. Once they learn the initial, how you hold a stick, how you dribble a ball, they progress rapidly. The hardest part is getting them to stop going like that all the time on the ball. That is literally the hardest thing to get them to change, because it's very unnatural. But once they get it, the learning curve is a lot easier after that.
That's perfect. So that's all the time we have for today. So I'll stop the recording now. So join us on Instagram. Oliver, you still full on coaching stations?
Semi-full on, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram is where we the most active, but coachingstation.com. And we're looking forward to that next masterclass then. Everyone.
Beautiful.
Stay tuned.
Beautiful.